Today I'm painting a watercolor upside down. Well, not that way. That doesn't work. The object is not to stand on your head, but instead turn your reference photo upside down. What you want to do is rid yourself of the preconceived notions of what things look like, and instead focus on the shapes and the colors that are in front of you. Stick with me, and I'll tell you how this exercise will help you improve your watercolor painting. The purpose of this watercolor exercise is to help you free up your watercolor painting by focusing on shape, color, and wet-on-wet techniques. I start at the top of the page painting in rough shapes with clear water and then add the color on top. This way I'm letting the color flow and move, but it can only move within the wet area. You can never completely control watercolor. You can, however, persuade it to go in a direction that you want. Adding brown while the paper is still wet lets it bleed out and creates a gradient within the two colors. You can also move the paint by putting paint down and then painting next to the color with clear water. Here I'm adding yellow to the green and allowing them to flow into each other. You can use a deeper tone of the color and just tap it on. As long as the paper is still wet, it will blend in. If I had wet the whole page, I wouldn't be able to prevent all the colors from running into each other. When that happens, the colors get muddy and dull. By wetting each section as I go, I can limit the movement of the paint. By adding some red into the side of the orange, I'm creating some depth and variation and just letting it flow into the orange. You have to work fast, not just getting the shapes and colors down, but doing it while the paint is still wet. When you're working wet on wet, sometimes you can end up with too much water on the page, but that's not a problem. You can just use a paper towel or a cloth and just dab the areas where the puddles are. It's a balancing act of putting water on, putting the paint on, and then adding more water to certain areas to move the paint around. It's trying to control the uncontrollable is what it is. When things start to dry, you can go in and deepen some of the darker colors, and this will add some dynamics to the painting. When that's done, I turn the paper around. I have to let the paper dry before I can paint in the trees and the branches. This is a very simple style of painting, and you don't want to overwhelm it by putting in too many details. So you don't want to add too many trees and branches. To paint the branches, I'm using a rigger brush. It holds a lot of paint and you don't have to keep refilling it, and it's very fine. Here I'm adding some splatter just to make it look like maybe some autumn leaves are blowing around. And now I'm ready to remove the tape. It's a very quick painting, a very quick exercise. The whole thing took about 8 minutes, and it's just a good practice for watercolor. You can support my channel by subscribing so YouTube will share my videos with more people. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you ring that bell, you'll be notified every time I post a video. Thank you for watching.